I am coming to you today to talk about annual checkups for your business. It's not just something that you do for your own health or taking your children to their annual checkup. It's something you should be doing for your business as well. And since January is a time for recentering, refocus, resolutions, January is a perfect time to review the systems in place in your business. Just as your doctor would check your blood pressure, do blood tests to check your cholesterol, check your breathing. We should be doing this for our business. We should be checking, the five major foundational pieces of your business every year to make sure that your business is running at optimum health. So the first is that you really need to think about your entity. So if you're a sole proprietor, in January, it's a great time to go back and review your profit and loss, your tax liability, your exposure to risk, and see if maybe it's time to form an entity, either as an LLC or a corporation, so that you can get that legal liability separation and protection of the debts and obligations and risks of your business from your personal assets. If you are an entity, awesome, love that. But you still have things you have to do every year. Corporations have to have an annual meeting of shareholders, and the shareholders need to vote and appoint their board of directors. Then the board of directors need to have an annual meeting and vote to appoint or reaffirm the officers that are in place. If you are a single shareholder corporation, you're going to do all of this on paper. And whether you're a multiple shareholder or a single shareholder, you do need to keep a record of these votes and the minutes of the meetings. You also have to file an annual report every year as an LLC or corporation. And when this is due, may vary from state to state, but in general, LLCs will file their annual report on or before the anniversary of their organization. So it may not be January. If you formed in July, your annual report would be due in July. And for corporations, it's often tied to fiscal year. So for example, in Massachusetts, a corporation has to file their annual report within 2.5 months of the end of their fiscal year. So this would mean if your fiscal year ends on December 31st, your annual report is due on or before March 15th. If you file after that, Massachusetts does charge a late fee. If you are an entity or not an entity, you really need to discuss with your CPA if it's time and appropriate for you to make any certain tax elections like an S Corp. If you're going to do that, an S Corp election has to be done and filed with the IRS by March 15th. And there are steps that you have to take to become an S Corp, including putting yourself on payroll. So January is a really good time to start looking back over the previous year, profit and loss and expenses, and see if making that S Corp election fiscally makes sense with the tax situation that you're currently paying versus what you might pay as an S Corp. You would review that information with your CPA, your enrolled agent, or your accountant. The next professional you're going to want to consult with and the next system you're going to want to review is your insurance. You want to make sure that the current policies that you have in place are up to date, that you've paid your premiums, and also that they are still sufficient to cover your risk of exposure for your business as it runs now. Because the business that you're running this January might not be exactly the same as the business you were running last January. You might have employees, you might have revenue, you might have more equipment. You want to make sure everything's covered. You may need a personal umbrella policy. So these are all things to talk about with your insurance agent to make sure that everything is really covering you to the fullest extent possible while still making sense. You don't want to just buy every policy out there and have an enormous insurance bill for coverage you don't need. So it's always important to review annually with your agent. Your website needs to be reviewed. Your terms of use should be reviewed to make sure that they adequately reflect the way that website is run and what people can and cannot do on it. Your privacy policy needs to be updated every year. There are constantly laws popping up. There were 5 new data privacy laws this year coming into effect from January through December. You want to make sure your privacy policy is compliant. You want to make sure it's accurately reflecting what it is you're doing, what data you're collecting, how you're handling it, what you're doing with it, who you're sharing it with. And then your terms of use and your privacy policy should always denote, either at the top or the bottom, the last date of review and update. So this year, it should say somewhere on there, updated 2023. Even be more specific and say the date and month. Your copyright notice on your website should be updated every year. Just down at the bottom of your homepage or wherever it appears, you'll have the little C in the circle in the year. It should say 2023 as of January. If you haven't updated it since 2019, this is your reminder, go do it now. And then the last is if you are a service-based business, you need to have your contracts updated and reviewed annually to ensure that it's reflecting the policies and pricing and refunds and postponements and any other policies that you have in your business that apply to your clients. If you have, over the course of a year, noticed that clients give pushback on a certain clause or term, or you have noticed that clients are just breaching these contracts, you may need to really shore them up and clear them up, make your policies more clear, make the ability to enforce them a little bit easier on you by including things such as you're allowed to collect legal fees and costs if you're chasing someone for payment or if you prevail in a lawsuit. And then you may want a dispute resolution clause in there so that you have a mechanism in place to resolve any problems with your clients. If you're not using client contracts, you absolutely need to get something in place. This is the year. This is the time. This is your reminder. Do it now. So hopefully you'll find this helpful to give your business a checkup. Make sure you do this with the right professionals, local counsel in your state, your trusted CPA, accountant or EA, and your insurance agent. These are all members of the team who are there for you to make sure your business is running at optimum health in 2023. And we here at In the Know Legal wish you the best of luck and great success this year.